Hello, good evening, and welcome to Prog Chattery 777. We've been talking about Genesis, and we've made it to the final installment of the main run of Genesis albums, the major Genesis albums. We've hit it. We're at We Can't Dance. Last album with Phil Collins, they did do Calling All Stations afterwards, but that's kind of a misfit, and I may talk about it one day, but it's been a long time since I've listened to it, so it's not going to be right away. Yeah, it's kind of a weird one. I feel a disconnect a little bit with this album. It feels a little separate from the rest of the catalog, mainly because I only own this on CD, and all the other albums I've got on vinyl, so I've got that kind of feeling about it. It's the Odd Duck CD. It was released on vinyl as a double album, which it didn't need to be. The biggest problem with this album is the length. It is just way too long, and 1991 CDs were out, and the idea was fill the CD, which I think is stupid because no one needs to, unless you're doing The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway or a conceptual thing that warrants that kind of time. An album should never be like 100 minutes. It's ludicrous. It was also released 5 years after Invisible Touch. This is 1991. Invisible Touch was 86. Obviously, Phil Collins at that point was ludicrously huge. I mean, he was in movies. He was, still doing his solo stuff. He was on like every morning talk show every day of the week. And the other guys, Mike Rutherford had Mike and the Mechanics, so that was his other band that kept him busy. And Tony Banks was kind of doing his own solo career. So, they'd been keeping busy, and, because they had their solo careers, when they did Genesis, they wrote as a collective, so they didn't really bring any individual songs to the table. And yeah, it's a weird album, because there's a lot of good stuff on it. It's just too long, and there's even the stuff that's not that. Even the stuff that I would choose to get rid of, I mean, I guess it has kind of merits to it, I guess. I think the production on this is better than Invisible Touch. I really like that Collins has abandoned the Simmons drums and he's actually playing acoustic drums on this. That's one of my favorite factors. But there's this kind of AOR feeling to the production, which it's not as bad as the 80s, as the 86 era Invisible Touch production, but it's still there's a safeness to the way it sounds. It's almost too warm. I don't know. But yeah, let's start going through the songs here. It opens with No Son of Mine, very famous song. It's a weird one because whenever I turn the CD on and I listen to it, it's got that metronome clicking starting out, then the elephant sound. I think that's Tony Banks, or it's Tony Banks sampling Mike Rutherford bending a note. Really cool intro, very atmospheric, and the guitar comes in and it's quite menacing. It's a story song, it's about this No Son of Mine here. I think that's what the album cover's about. It's about domestic troubles as viewed from a youngin, a son. So kind of dreary subject matter, but it's a good story song. It's 5 minutes long, and it doesn't really it kind of stays in one place. You get the chorus and then the verse, and then it just kind of chugs along. And I mean, I'm not really a huge fan of the song, to be honest, but again, like as an opener, it starts out really, really promising, and then it just kind of flatlines and just chugs along for like I said, maybe a couple of minutes too long. But oh well. Then we get Jesus, He Knows Me. Now this song I really, really like. This has got again, it's kind of like an Anything She Does or Invisible Touch kind of a song, but I think the production's a little bit better, and I like the lyrics. Like, the lyrics they're pretty funny. He's talking about TV evangelists and all that. But it's a great, spirited, high energy, quirky pop song, which Genesis they'd been good at ever since Selling England. So yeah, I quite like that one. Track 3 is Driving the Last Spike. This is one of the long songs. Like even in the era, the pop era that everyone hates, uh, they still did the extended proggy songs and driving the last bike. Like songs like the Musical Box or Stagnation or Can Utility and the Coastliners. It starts in one place and it ends in another. It's a journey. Um, Collins did the lyrics on this song, and it's quite unique actually. He does a pretty good job. I really like Collins' lyrics on it. He talks about the workers that put the railroads in England, and back in the day, they were blowing out these rocks and creating tunnels and mountains and whatnot, and a lot of people died, and it was it wasn't going to war, it was just building a railroad, but the people suffered a great tragedy, and it's the stuff of a good song, I think. Um, Musically, it's really good. It's a nice steady build. Uh, yeah, great song. Great later day big song. Track 4. This is I Can't Dance. Now, if you saw my video on Abacab, you'll remember I talked about Who Done It as being a really stupid song, but possibly not the stupidest song in the Genesis catalog. I think I Can't Dance might vouch for the stupidest song in the Genesis catalog, because at least Who Done It, in that song there's an awareness that what they're doing is totally silly, and I think there's an awareness to I Can't Dance too. I hope there is, but it's it's a beer commercial song that it's stretched out for like 3 minutes, and I'm really not a big fan of this song at all. I mean, I spent a lot of time laughing at it with my buddies, fellow Genesis buddies, because it's just so silly. But I don't know. And they've always done silly songs, obviously, but I don't know about I Can't Dance. I have a real problem with that song. Then we go to Never a Time, which is quite a stark contrast. It's the first ballad of the album, and it's kind of like the ballads on Invisible Touch, where it's well arranged, it's well sung, it's well, the ingredients are right, but it's just a bit bland, and it serves a purpose as, I guess, like a buffer zone in the album. But I could live without Never a Time. Then we get to track number 6, Dreaming While You Sleep. Now this is a really cool song. This is kind of evokes memories of the self-titled album, like kind of the atmospheric stuff that's on like Mama, for example. Um, quite a cool song, and quite dark too. I think it's about being involved in an accident where someone dies or something like that. But I like the kind of like I'm not sure if it's Collins doing something on some kind of electronic percussion or if it's Tony Banks, but that little like vibraphone-y sounding bit, that doom 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 doom, really cool. Yeah, it's solid later day last album Genesis track. Um, then we get to Tell Me Why, which this is a big section of the album where we get, oh no, never mind, we're not there yet. Tell Me Why. Yeah, we still got one more really great song before that moment of the album. Um, it's okay, I guess. It's got the AOR blandness factor. And you first hear it and the guitar line comes in, you get this kind of neat ascending guitar line or whatever. And then after the song goes on a bit, it just gets so boring. But it's not, I guess it doesn't overstay its welcome too badly. Yeah. But that's okay, because track 8 is Living Forever, and this is one of the highlights of the album for me. I think this is contender for the best song on the album. I think Collins is playing the brushes on the acoustic drums. Oh, it sounds so good. Really, really funky stuff. I love the swing that Collins plays with it, and that's really refreshing to hear that really organic drum sound after 2 albums of really heavily electronic kind of percussion. And it's a great little piece of song. It's really funky, real groovy, and then we get a nice big old instrumental section, which, again, they never really abandoned doing that. But yeah, all the albums have their moments. Um, but yeah, it's really good, really funky one on Living Forever at the end, the whole final sequence there. And the guitar riff there too. It's, yeah, definitely contender for one of the best songs on the album. And then we get to tracks 9, 10, and 11, and this is a moment where the balladry just gets to be too much, and it's like, you didn't need to include all of those to fill the space on the album, and I think it creates a bit of a detriment. And it's not even that, these songs are bad, and in fact, Hold On My Heart, track 9, I think that could be one of my favorite ballads by Genesis. I think my favorite ballad is, what's the one on, let me just look, let me refer. Taking It All Too Hard. Taking It All Too Hard from the self-titled album. I think that's a really good Genesis ballad. And Hold On My Heart is right up there. I think I really, really like the middle section where, the I will be there. It's fantastic, and it's really, really tasteful guitar lines from Mike Rutherford on that. Almost sounds like Santana or something. And the actual ballad part is like the beginning and the end is it's kind of standard Genesis ballad material, but it's got a very unique structure to it. It's almost like a Duchess thing where it starts and rises and comes back to quiet at the end. So yeah, Hold On My Heart is actually not bad. Yes, I said it. I'm a proghead, but I think that's not a bad song. Then we get to Way of the World, so this is the second in the 3 ballady songs, and it's kind of got this shuffle, and it just kind of shuffles along, and again, it starts out, and you think, oh, this isn't going to be too bad, and then it repeats too much, and it's just, you start falling asleep. Then you get Since I Lost You, which is kind of a hard one to talk about, because it is about a real-life unfortunate circumstance that happened to Eric Clapton. And it's a tragic kind of a song, and there's a sincerity there. I think, like, for example, Way of the World and Tell Me Why are kind of hard to listen to, because the lyrics, they're trying to be sincere, but they're trying so hard that the sincerity goes out the window. I think those are the problems with those songs. But I think Since I Lost You is a very sincere song, and it is sung from the heart, and it's a tender moment. And I think it's kind of weak on the album because it comes after this big string of other ballads. So yeah, there's a few songs that you could get rid of and you'd end up with a really, really good album, but that's how it is. The last song on the album, track 12, is Fading Lights, and I think, again, another contender for the best song on the album. It is an absolute classic, Genesis track. You get the drum machine at the beginning, which kind of almost sounds like Duchess from Duke, and then the song is quite dramatic, and it's kind of got the harmonic changes here and there, and we get the classic big instrumental at the end of the album. It really does remind you of the classic Genesis stuff, but you can almost tell listening to it that they kind of knew this was it for the that lineup of Banks, Collins, and Rutherford. So Fading Lights it's a nice send-off. It's a nice closer to the career. It should have been a closer to the career, but there is that other album that came out in '97, which we may or may not talk about. Request it if you really want me to. I might do it. So yeah, not much else to say. Like I said, this is the final album by Genesis, by the classic Genesis lineup. Phil Collins would leave to focus on his solo career after they did the tour, and then they got Ray Wilson to sing for the last album, and it was basically a horrible flop, and then they actually properly finished. Of course, they did the big reunion in 2007 with the pop lineup. Still Genesis music. It's not exclusively pop. And obviously that tour was really, really successful, and there's a cool live album that came out that documented that. But as it stands now, I think Collins is he's back on the scene, I think, right now. He's done a few shows here and there, and he's remastered a bunch of his albums, but he's had some problems with his drumming, and he hasn't been able to drum like he used to. Um, so I think the likelihood of seeing any more Genesis activity, with Collins as the drummer is unfortunately not going to happen. I think it's always kind of been a fan's, dream that they would reunite. Um, but I think the story is pretty content as it is. I think I unfortunately I never managed to see them in 2007. It would have been really nice because that's really would have been the last opportunity to see Genesis. But I didn't. Unfortunately, I'll never see proper Genesis. That's fine. Uh, I saw the musical box, and they were absolutely brilliant. I saw them doing the Selling England tour, and it's funny after seeing the musical box recreate the classic Genesis, the classic five-man Genesis. I thought to myself, I don't think I'd ever actually want to see the original Genesis guys do it because it wouldn't be the same. It's better that the musical box did a recreation exactly as it was. It's like a it's like theater. They'll recreate a specific evening, and Genesis wouldn't be able to do that if they got back together with the five-man lineup. But again, Collins is kind of out of commission from drumming, so that's probably not going to happen anyway. But I've been blabbering on way too much, trying to sum up the whole Genesis thing because we made it to the end. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm not really sure what band I'm gonna do next, but I'm gonna have to do some band or another. Maybe a Gentle Giant could be cool, or Mr. Bungle, Tool, modern stuff, Mars Volta. Who knows? I have no idea what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do something, and hope you stay tuned, and hope you enjoy. Hit me, or send me a subscribe, and send me a like. Don't hit me. I don't like being hit. Yeah, that's enough for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you in the future.